Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to learn how to properly whip finish. Before starting your whip finish, first and foremost, you always want to flatten your thread out. By spinning it counterclockwise, that's how you flatten it. And if you're not sure if it's flat, then you can rub your whip finisher along it and you can see how it splays out there. When you go to start your whip finish, you have this notch right here. And I'm going to grab this notch where the wire meets the tube at the little circle. Now some whip finishers don't have a little circle here, and that's alright. Pretend the circle's not there and still grab it at the circle. So if you don't grab it at the circle, it can freely move around, but the circle is connected, right? It's like welded onto this. So I'm going to grab it by the notch, and then I'm going to push into my thread. And then I'm lifting this straight up, and all the while I keep my bobbin at a horizontal position. So I push in and then I catch the notch. And then I let go of the piece. I let go of this. So again, push in, let go, and then I just lift straight up. And now we have a backwards 4. And again, my bobbin is going to stay perfectly aligned with the hook to the best of my abilities. Okay, and now that we have the backwards 4, we're going to pull the thread down, and then we're going to work from left to right towards the eye for right-handed people. Then we're going to pop that off, and we're simply going to pull off. One more time. We're just going to move towards the eye. Okay, now I want you to notice how there is a thread gap. And you can't see this thread gap right now, but if I move this sideways, you can see it. Now, it's good that you don't see a thread gap. That's what you want. So that's how you know you finished properly, is when you don't see a thread gap. The gap is running away from you, right? It's not side to side, it's forward and backwards. So what happens, though, if I whip finish from the eye towards the rear of the hook? Now look at the gap. You can see this is a big gap from here to here. Now when I go to pull this under, the thread is going to go on the outside instead of underneath of everything. So as I pull this down, now you can see this thread. And that might not seem like a big deal, but as soon as it gets hit by a fish, that is gone. So you always want to make sure that you're whip finishing. If you're right-handed, you go from left to right, and opposite if you're left-handed, obviously. Now, if you want to whip finish with 2 fingers, you just have to pull the thread over, lift up, and twist. Now you have to control, with your middle finger, you have to control the horizontal thread, and you're just literally twisting your hand, and yeah, coming forward. Okay, that wasn't a very good representation, but when I do it faster, it's much easier, right? Whip finishing by hand is not really all that it's cracked up to be for small stuff, but when you're doing big flies and you have a lot of stuff that you need to get around, whip finishing by hand is a lifesaver. You always make sure your thread's flat, and we're going to show you with 1 finger. So all I'm doing here is I'm literally spinning the thread and I'm putting the eye of the hook through the gap of the thread. So I pull this up and I spin my finger. Right, you see the backwards 4 kind of right there? Bring it over, and that's pretty much it for that. There's really cool ones you can do, like pretend like you're going to do a dubbing loop. You take 2 wraps, and then you go make sure that when you pull this over to the other side that the eye of the hook goes through it. And now when you pull this down, it locks your thread. So I'll show you that one more time. And I do this with 1 hand. I'm just trying to make sure the camera can capture this. Take 2 wraps, and then I pull this thread to the other side, and that's it. But what it would look like with the camera on is that, right? So a lot of times I'll see people, they'll whip finish, but they don't move left or right. They just kind of stack the wraps on top of each other. That's not good at all. Don't do that. So let's say we wanted to finish this head here, but you don't want orange thread. Now I'll show you where using a whip finish really helps when you move from left to right. So I've colored my thread, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure these wraps set kind of overlapping, but I'm still moving side to side. Okay, and when I pull that out, I have a nicely finished head. And then when you're done, if you take this thread, put it over the top, and then put your thumb in there, you can pull it up and pop it right out, and you have no excess. The only excess is where I cut the thread when I started it. So yeah, that's how you whip finish properly. If you guys need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I appreciate you for being here, and I will catch you on the fly.